Section 1. Suffrage may be exercised by all citizens of the Philippines, not otherwise disqualified by law, who are at least 18 years of age, and who shall have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year, and in the place wherein they propose to vote for at least 6 months, immediately preceding the election. No literacy, property, or other substantive requirement shall be imposed on the exercise of suffrage.
Suffrage is the right and obligation to vote of qualified citizens in the election of certain national and local officers of the government, and in the decision of public questions submitted to the people.
Suffrage is not a natural right of the citizens, but merely a privilege granted to individuals only upon the fulfillment of certain minimum conditions deemed essential for the welfare of society. It is also classified as political right, enabling every citizen to participate in the process of government, to assure that it can truly be said to derive its powers from the consent of the people. Election. It is the means by which people choose their officials for definite and fixed periods of time.
Plebiscite, expressing the choice of people.
Referendum. Voting citizens for their ratification or rejection.
Initiative, people directly propose and enact laws.
Recall. It is a method by which a public officer may be removed from office. Number 1. A citizen of the Philippines.
Number 2. Not otherwise disqualified by law.
Number 3. At least 18 years of age.
And number 4. Have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year and in the place wherein he proposes to vote for at least 6 months preceding the elections.
Number 1. Any person who has been sentenced by final judgment to suffer imprisonment for not less than 1 year.
Number 2. Any person who has been adjudged by final judgment of having committed any crime involving disloyalty to the duly constituted government.
Number 3. Insane or incompetent persons as declared by competent authority.
Ako si Boy Bawal.
At ako naman si Tina Tama. Ito ang Picos Machine na gagamitin sa pagbilang ng inyong mga boto sa darating na eleksyon.
To prevent confusion during Election Day, voters should check their names and precincts beforehand, either by visiting their local COMELEC office or by going to the COMELEC website and clicking the precinct finder. A voters list will also be available outside the polling precincts. Polling precincts open at 7 in the morning and will close at 7 this evening. Unlike manual polls, you don't need to bring any pen. The Board of Election Inspectors, or BEIs, will provide COMELEC-approved marking pens for the ballot. There's also no need to worry if you don't have a voter's ID. Just present one valid ID to the BEI. However, cedulas and barangay certificates will not be accepted. Voters will then be asked to sign in at the voters' computerized list. The BEI will also inspect your forefinger for any markings of indelible ink to prove that you have not yet voted. Once this verification process is done, the BEI will hand over the official ballot with the secrecy folder and the marking pen. It's one ballot, one voter, so there are no spare ballots in case of mistakes. A voter can only ask for a replacement if there are marks, dirt, or a tear on the ballot given by the BEI. The ballot should also not be folded. Water and other liquids are prohibited inside the polling centers since these may stain the ballot. The COMELEC is also reminding voters to properly fill up the ballot by fully shading the oval next to your choice of candidate so the machine can read the vote. Overvoting will also invalidate the votes in a particular position. Choosing more than the required number for the elective post will nullify the area, but you can't take pictures of the ballot. After filling up the ballot, the voter will have to personally feed the form to the PCOS machine. If it's successful, you should see this. Congratulations, your vote has been registered. To finish the process, the BEI will put indelible ink on your forefinger.
Section 2. The Congress shall provide a system for securing the secrecy and sanctity of the ballot, as well as a system for absentee voting by qualified Filipinos abroad.
The Congress shall also design a procedure for the disabled and illiterates to vote without the assistance of other persons. Until then, they shall be allowed to vote under existing laws and such rules as the Commission on Elections may promulgate to protect the secrecy of the ballot.
Number 1. Untrammeled exercise of the right to vote. It is essential then to ensure that the voters shall exercise their right freely, uninfluenced by threats, intimidation, or corrupt motives, and to secure a fair and honest count of the ballots.
Number 2. Voting by the disabled and illiterates. It is the responsibility of the legislative body to enact procedures that ensures practice of people with disability and illiteracy of the right of suffrage. System for absentee voting. The right to suffrage extends even to Filipinos abroad, provided that they possess all the qualifications mentioned therein and none of the disqualifications provided by law. It is the duty of the Congress to provide for a system of absentee voting by qualified Filipinos abroad.
Help Desk for the Illiterate, persons with disabilities or PWDs, and senior citizens were in place until the last day of voters' registrations in a Maguindanao barangay. Alpha Phi Omega or Apo fraternity and sorority members put up the help desk to assist said registrants who had difficulty filling their forms in Dalican Dato Udin Sinswat. The town's Apo Alumni Association Vice President To Makog said they helped registrants who were illiterate, PWDs, and senior citizens to speed up the processing of forms. Apo volunteers estimate that about 10% of those who registered in Dalican are PWDs, while majority of those they have assisted are senior citizens who cannot read or write. As of 11 in the morning of July 18, only few registrants were sighted in Dalican, as well as in other barangays of the town. Dato Udin Sinswat had the biggest registered voters in Maguindanao as of 2011. Although the Commission on Elections prioritized PWDs and senior citizens, it was noted that in the municipality, some registration centers were not that PWD friendly.
The Comelec has issued a resolution allowing local absentee voting in the coming midterm elections. Covered by the resolution are media personnel, policemen, soldiers, teachers and Comelec employees. They will be allowed to vote ahead of the polls if they cannot cast their ballots on election day due to work. Comelec Chairman Sixto Brillantes Jr. said the local absentee voting will be held in offices of the poll body on April 28, 29 and 30 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Local absentee voters can only vote for senatorial candidates and party list groups. Media personnel who want to avail of the local absentee voting need to individually file their applications not later than March 31st. Office of the place where they will be assigned. If they are unable to vote during the local absentee, they may still vote on election day in their precinct for all positions.
The voting period begins today. Comelec Chair Sixto Brillantes flew to Hong Kong Friday to oversee the voting process, which will run for a month. The automated election system will be implemented in countries where there is a big number of voters and the PCOS machines will be used. There are nearly 1 million registered Filipino voters abroad, mostly in Hong Kong, Saudi Arabia, and Singapore. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez believes the votes of the OFWs are very vital in the elections.
Ang botante natin sa overseas voting ay mahigit 700,000 voters. That's a whole lot of people. And then yung ina-expect nating buboto naman ng automated ay mahigit 300,000. So this is a huge number, however way you cut it. And depending on the turnout, it could be very significant, no? Maaring magdala ito ng swing vote, particular sa race for senator, kung saan yung last few spots usually mahigpit na pinaglalabanan.